Fuel poverty is increasing in the UK and across Europe. Energy prices have continued to rise. The incomes of people on low wages or dependent on benefits has been depressed, and we haven't invested sufficiently in our housing stock to protect those households from future price rises and continued downward pressure on benefits. So there is an urgent need to identify those people who are really struggling and to bring forward solutions to help them. Capital expenditure by local authorities, by central government, by energy companies has been reduced over the last 3 years. So it is important that we think carefully about who we are really going to help as the fuel poverty statistics continue to rise. And I think this is about using and developing tools that can help us in that goal. Spending caps have been pledged by all of the political parties, so I think going into the future we're going to have to persuade all of the decision makers if we want their funds, government funds, to be invested in carbon reduction and in social applications that will alleviate fuel poverty. So for people who don't know NEA, we have 3 strategic aims, and I think that this SEMANCO tool and this project is helping deliver against all 3 of those. So firstly, it's helping to develop the skills and the knowledge that we'll need in that quest for investment in energy efficiency in our housing stock and in communities. Secondly, it's developing practical tools with a clear application and that will help us reduce that wasted energy. And thirdly, it feeds into our campaigning role. It will provide us with evidence to go to the decision makers, to go to the politicians, both locally, nationally and at a European level. But specifically today, we're going to be focusing on the tools that's been developed where we believe that there's a clear application, the SEMANCO tool. It's around carbon reduction in urban planning. I'm not going to go into any of the detail of this, it's far too technical for me, but we do have expert panels who are speakers who are going to take us through that. So I'm now going to hand over, before we get into the detail, to Professor Nashwan Dawood from University of Teesside, who is leading the SEMANCO team. So welcome, Nash, and over to you.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you to you all for coming to this particular seminar. We've been running these sort of, if you like, these seminars in Europe and in here. It's basically to perhaps, first of all, disseminate what we've been doing, and secondly, get buy-in to some of the tools and the processes. And really, we wanted to make an impact. Obviously, first of all, in the northeast of England, and then UK, PLC, and Europe. What I'm going to really to present to you is some of the concept of semantic tools, and this particular presentation really on behalf of the whole team is lots of time, effort being spent in pulling the information, the tools together. So really on behalf of the partners, as you can see here, we've got a number of partners from a wide range of Europe. I'll be presenting some of this work today. Okay, let's just start with the things that what's all about. How are we doing in terms of developing these tools? Key stakeholders are the heart of everything we do, because otherwise there's no point of doing it. What we want to do, what we want to deliver, how ICT can help and fit what we're trying to do, and probably walk through some case studies through David and Nadim and some work in Leicester. Just to give you just a brief, that Europe is spending about £250 million in research and development in ICT for energy efficiency. So the program started about 6-7 years ago, and there are probably hundreds of projects around Europe talking about the ICT for energy efficiency, which basically make the process a little bit more objective, inject more objectivity, tools, knowledge, understanding, so therefore things can be done in an objective manner. So that's what's all about. And this particular program is going to continue beyond Framework 7, which is stopped, which is finished last year, to go to Horizon 2020. So there are massive opportunities really to start pushing hard with these technologies, with these tools. And the objective is really the sustainability and the carbon reduction. So these are the partners here, as you can see, across Europe. The interesting things is we're all different. As you can see, down south they're looking for the heat is the problem. Up north is the cause of the problem. So it's a different dimension to the same problem, which is CO2 emission and energy reduction. So really the focus of the project based on 3 case studies, as Jenny was saying, 3 case studies. So we use these case studies to perhaps have a focus on the requirement capture, focus on what's needed, and focus on using the tools. There's lots of emphasis in these projects on impact and use the tools, how successful these tools are going to be used. This is how we're going to be judged. It's not how many papers we perhaps produce in the academic world, but how many, what's the impact. And I'm going to go some of the targets that Europe set, and that has been communicated widely to lots of to governments, etc. Government using it to lobby other sort of establishments, etc. to get these targets sorted. Okay, so Nadim is from Copenhagen. As you can see, it's quite exciting case study there, and we have the not far away from here, the Newcastle, and then we have at Madras in Spain. Okay, the CO2 reduction in urban planning. What are these tools? What are these semantics? I think Jenny done excellent work in explaining semantic, which is using sort of data anywhere, somewhere, for the good of our calculation, or for the good of CO2 reduction. So basically, I'm going just to take you through why we started it and how it's going to be and what the tools is all about. Now, I'm sure some of you heard about the sort of Covenant of Mayors, which is really, they signed up % reduction in CO2 emission by 2020. And that is sort of distribution of, the Government of Mayors distribution of voluntary municipal signatories in Europe. Newcastle, Gateshead, Stockton, Middlesbrough are part of this. So basically we use this in our proposal to say, okay, if these people wanting to be part of this, now what sort of tools, methodologies needed in order to do that, in order to reduce? I'm sure there's lots of knowledge and understanding in all European countries about different ways and different policies that have been done, but are they working? What sort of things we could do in order to help and assist? So basically, as part of this, there is something called coordinated action delivered through Sustainable Energy Action Plan, and that is where specifying the whole issue about the energy reduction. As you can see on the left-hand side, these are the councils who signed to this particular Covenant of Mayors, and on the right hand is other agencies or energy agencies that signed to this. So as a good research work, the first thing we started with, you're not meant to read this, that's what Mike told me. As any good research work, we wanted to see what people want, what is missing, where things are. So that's where we started what we call stakeholders. So basic demand for better evidence to support policy making and energy investment action. I'll show you a couple of things. For example, this is the government of mayors. Some of the extract. We want to ensure strong political leadership for sustainable development and benchmarking of our public sector-led projects. So people are looking for a bit more benchmarking tools for the public. My friend from Denmark going to have a talk about it. Air source, which is the Spanish. Carbon mixer and GIS-based data manipulation, which is something that we did develop in terms of calculating the rating, the different energy rating, and we need to do about it. So some data that we wanted to use is not available, even in the public domain. And then how it can be created, because that's crucial in order to do, for example, the simulation, simulate energy performance of urban area. There are also data might be needed in terms of SAP and others, materials, urban carbon footprint. That the accuracy of data is vital. Okay, this is just a really to confuse you, to confuse you. This is the table that all the data is organized. We then semantically link this data through different ways and methods. And basically, so therefore, for example, you've got the heart, for example, building. A building here, building will have different geometries, building will have different things inside it, different boilers, etc. that linked here. There can be, this could be part of housing. Housing could be part of different linked to the data, in terms of cost, population, etc., etc. So basically, the emphasis is on the organizing the data first, and then the different data there could be, there is an editor, and what we call ontology editor, that can put the data and link the data semantically. So basically, just to give you a quick example on scope of input data required for estimation of SAP CO2 emission. For EPC rating, for example, this is some of the work that we did in the River Dean. For example, all the houses, typical property that will have building geometry, will have different roof areas, height, etc. You've got calculates exposed wall areas, etc. We have more information like the age, the boiler efficiency, the location. So all of this is data that could be available somewhere. For example, the boiler efficiency, the type of boilers, the property age, that will give me lots of knowledge about, for example, the type of walls that has been built, and building geometry and other areas. So all of this really goes to something we call the ontology editor, which is sort of what we call ontology engineer that link the data together with the help of sort of energy efficient engineers, or with the help of construction people, that these can be linked together. And this is all available knowledge, really, is semantic. What the new is the data that we've been using, where it's coming from, and how it's going to be semantically modeled. So basically here, to give you example of data structure, simplified extract of ontology for entry-related data. Probably you can see here property age provides a default for setting for fabric efficiency and of a dwelling based on public regulations in place. And you can see the U value. For example, the geometry will be function of dimension, orientation. The location will give you some knowledge and understanding in terms of orientation and climate. And you could probably build up some calculation to calculate heat loss. So that's in a nutshell the some of the ontology editors and some of the information. It is about ICT. It's about information. It's about knowledge that can be used. These are different ways in which data can be input. Probably this is something that we're going to see. That's from Newcastle, how you put the data and how you calculate the data. We've developed a quite robust visual platform in order to communicate with the data, and the visual representation not only to see but also to extract data. So we've done lots of work. For example, we got ladder maps over River Dean. That needs a bit of cleaning, but sort of the amount of data that you can capture if it's cleaned well, in terms of height, in terms of footprint of the buildings, and therefore that can be used for different calculations. This is something probably Nadim is going to show you. This is in Copenhagen. You can see here, these are different objects, the buildings. The color will reflect, as you can see here, the megawatt per hour in terms of energy, and you can highlight the energy high usage and how you're going to compare this. And therefore you can have different information, different graphs, and therefore you can have different strategies to reduction. This is the River Sardine. Maybe David is going to talk more about this, but just to give you an idea, this is our ladder maps that we commissioned. There is the biomass in the middle here. Probably some of you will recognize this, and that's supposed to serve a number of Newcastle Park, the development in terms of the brewery, the Newcastle General Hospital. That was the plan, but then we cleaned the data. We did lots of cleaning of the data. Some 3D models being developed. We've got some open source data that we developed from reading the ladder in terms of footprint. We purchased some the master maps from Ordnance Survey. So there are lots of work being done. The idea is to see how much we could capture data without having people involved and engaged all the time in terms of, so capture the data, put them somewhere in a public repository so somebody else might be able to use it. So as you can see, lots of cleaning of the data, lots of modeling that we've done. But what we've done with it really is as you can see, we captured the semantic data, the polygon with properties. The properties is attached to the properties, which could be building geometry, surfaces, orientation, and that's all for the sake of calculating the rating of the buildings and probably collectively calculating the rates, the energy rating, reduce SAP and energy billing. But really, just to this is probably one of the last slides. This is the Sardine. So that is probably some of the intervention that we did. We had a bit of problems in terms of rating. We did some interventions, and as you can see, things turning green. Now, these interventions really there's lots of cost analysis, lots of intelligent algorithms to tell me what sort of intervention has the, if you like, the benefit in terms of cost, in terms of the whole life cycle approach, in terms of the footprint for the calculation. That could be done fairly easy if the data is structured, if the information is available, you can capture them and do the work. And I think this is in a nutshell what SEMANCO is all about, and I just handed the platform to David and Jim. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Nash. That's great. Thank you. What I'll do is kind of move this down here. Let's sort this mic out. Just make some space. Okay, can you all hear me? Is that okay? Or shall I lift it up? Can you hear me at the back? No? Is it gone off? Oh. Good. Helps if it's on, doesn't it? Okay, can you hear me at the back, yeah? Okay. Super. So yeah, what we're going to do now is just give you we'll cross our fingers and we're going to give you a live demonstration of the tool that Nash has just been talking about. And this is very much the UK Riverside Dean, about 2 miles away, context. So what I'll do is I'll go into the tool. It's a web-based tool. Now I tested this morning and it worked, so fingers crossed. It's a good sign. So what I'm going to do is put myself in the position of, say, an energy officer working for Newcastle City Council. I've contacted the SEMANCO team. I've had some training on how to use the tool, and we've paid an extortionate license fee to access the tool. And we're quite annoyed about that, but it's hopefully going to provide some added value somewhere. So I've just got to load the tool. And the first thing I'm going to do is log in, because I have permission rights. So I've got my login details. And immediately what you can see there is the map of Newcastle. You can see the River Tyne winding its way through there, Tyne Bridge just here. And what I can do is select one of the, well actually what I'm going to do first is load a project. So here's, in the words of Blue Peter, one I prepared earlier. And by loading the project, what that gives me is extra functionality to actually use the tool. So when myself and Michael did the usability studies, we actually did some workshops around Newcastle, down in Leicester and Teesside, speaking to people like yourselves, and did a bit of a requirements capture. So what would you like to see on the screen? And I've also been talking to representatives from universities, from local authorities, about if you were to use this sort of tool in your position, what sort of functionalities would you require? So one of the things they might do is the energy manager may say, okay, I want to know about fuel poverty in the local area. So what I can do here is select fuel poverty from the urban indicator list. You can see we've got multiple deprivation, income scores, and fuel poverty. So I'll start with fuel poverty, and hopefully something should happen. Fingers crossed. Okay, that's good. So very quickly there, with the data that we have on Newcastle, with the map, we can actually see the very quickly an overview of fuel poverty across the city. And now what I can do is scroll into a particular neighbourhood, and in this case we're using Riverside Dean as the use case here in Newcastle. And now what I want to do is, I know there's quite high levels of fuel poverty. I think it was orange kind of colour, so it means there's around about 18 to 22% of households in that neighbourhood are in fuel poverty. So I know that there's there's issues to do with the energy efficiency of properties in that neighbourhood. So what I want to do now is get a closer look at that neighbourhood, and I'm going to select separate. I'll scroll in a little bit closer to it. So we've got some tower blocks here, and we've got some newly refurbished tower blocks, and we have some social housing and an own occupier and private rented housing around the perimeter. So what I'm going to do is select separate, and immediately what you can see there is obviously these have since been knocked down, so please ignore these. this is all the data. And you can see that the newly refurbished tower blocks, nice green colour there, very energy efficient. If anything, they're all complaining that they're too warm, I've been told, so it's quite interesting. And then what you can see here on the social housing areas, if you just drag the map, there is some buildings here with very, very low energy ratings, SAP ratings. So what I can do is actually select one of these buildings, so click on it. And what pops up there is a nice summary. And I will say that it is, sorry, the phone started calling someone there, sorry, get rid of that. What I will say is that it is dummy data at the moment. We are integrating data, but that's part of the development of the tool, so we're still working on that. So you can see here, it gives you a very nice kind of summary of the building in question. So you see the surface area, you know the number of floors, the height of the building, you know it's a house, and it was built, according to this, in 1901. And you can immediately see there the SAP rating is pretty low. So what I'm going to do now is launch a tool which is integrated into the platform called the SAP tool. Now what pops up immediately here, when we talk to potential users during the workshops, what they said to us is that very much like if it provided a map or some kind of visual display of the building in question. So on the right hand side here, you can see the buildings, the kind of street in question. If you have local knowledge, you'll know what type of property that is, and you might actually be able to appreciate the type of measures that you know, or any energy efficiency programs that have gone on in that street. So that was something that was quite important. And you can actually pan around using that as well to the neighbourhoods. You can see where it is. You can maybe assess it for access if you were to install measures and gain a picture very, very quickly. So here we have the kind of basic SAP data credentials for the building. I can see there that overall it's got single glazing, so I'm going to increase that. I'm going to put triple glazing in there, bring that up to standard. I'm then going to move across into the house data, and because I work for a local authority, we have no money, so what I'm going to do is do all the easy fixes. We're going to add some wall insulation there, so at the moment it's as built. We're going to top that up, put 150 mil in there. I'll then move to the roof data, and I can see again there's no roof insulation in there. I'm going to maximise that to the limit, 270 mil on the roof. And then what I'm going to do is I can see it's got quite an old electricity storage heaters in there, which were put in the 80s. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take those out. Quite energy inefficient. I'm going to put a 90% energy efficient boiler in there. That should be fine. Actually, just check that the tank, because we'll need to insulate the water tank. And then we'll get to the, so you can see the SAP rating before, and what we can actually do, it had a very, very low SAP rating of nearly 3. And what we can do is then calculate, press the button, and we've knocked it up to 76. So very quickly you can visually see the improvements that you can make. So I'll just close the SAP tool for now. There's various visual ways of looking at the data as well in the neighbourhood. So what we can do is we can look at it in tabular format. So very quickly, as an energy officer, sat at my desk, I can see the rough ages of the properties, the SAP ratings of the properties on that map, the average CO2 emissions per year, and the average energy consumption in kilowatt hours per year as well. Now, to visualise the kind of outliers, to kind of see where there may be issues, I'm going to put it onto, we'll do surface built, change that to consumption. Zero construction. Okay, so change the aggregation there to year of construction, it's the ages. The size of the bubbles is the sizes of the properties, and you can see straight away, you can start to gain a picture of the properties which are causing particular problems in that neighbourhood. So these are all the kind of F and G, well, G-rated properties in that neighbourhood. So very quickly you're visually able to go back, you can extrapolate any images on here, you can go back, present this to your manager, or to councillors if you're trying to get funding for a programme, and say this is the improvement we can make before, well, you can compare before and after. So there's also other interface capabilities. We can use some of the filters down here, so I can filter on age of property, and you can use the scrolling there to actually select certain ages of properties. And also you can say to the tool, please show me all the properties on the map with that are F and G rated. If you apply those filters, it'll strip data out and show you. So as I said, we did the workshops. We feel we've come up with quite an easy to use tool. We hope you share the same opinion. We are going to be doing some demonstrations later on. We're going to set the laptop up at the back during lunch. If you want to have a go of it yourself, have a little play around, that would be fantastic. What I'm going to do now is hand over to Nadine, who's going to give you the Copenhagen perspective. Is that okay, sir?
That's fine. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's good to be here. So I have a presentation. I can just briefly just introduce myself. I'm a civil engineer within energy planning. I've been working with Ramboll since 2008. And mostly I've done work related to energy planning for communities, municipalities and cities. So that's my background. So I'm an energy planner, just to get that straight. So just a brief presentation overview. I just give you a small introduction to the North Harbour area, which is being designed as a sustainable and livable city, we call it. Just to give you a feel and impression of the area itself. Then I'll talk a bit about the CO2-friendly city. We'll focus on transport as well as energy and some of the technologies used. And then I'll talk a little bit about energy modeling tools, and this is very much from a consulting point of view, so it's not the SEMANCO tool itself. And I'll finish off demonstrating SEMANCO. I wasn't sure that we would be live today, so I just took some screen dumps, so I'll use them instead. So this is just to show you some of the urban development projects going on in Copenhagen. The Ramboll office is in the area marked with green. Do we have a pointer? Is this the one?
No. If you can just use the arrows.
Okay.
Yeah, that one there. We don't actually have a...
Okay. No mind.
The mic though, if you want to point.
I can do that, yeah. So the Ramboll office is actually in the green area. It's just down here, next to the highway. And this area has actually been designed by Ramboll as a sustainable urban development area. So this is almost fully developed now. And right now we are working for different clients, and the blue areas you can see are actually the ongoing urban development areas right now. The North Harbour itself, which is quite big, is this area up here. And this is the case study we are using in the SEMANCO project. But as you can see, it's a huge area, and it's going to be developed for the next 50 years or so. So, yeah, I'll come back to that. This is an image actually developed by architects. So this urban development project is it's a very close cooperation between engineers and architects. And this is the way we work in Ramboll. It's a very multidisciplinary exercise. So to think that to create a sustainable urban development project is a simple task, it's not. It's very multidisciplinary, and it requires a lot of different competencies. But this is the urban development area of North Harbour. This is how it's going to look like in the future, 50 years from now. I'll just show you some pictures of how it is now. This is the area now, and this is how it's going to be in the future. So the vision is that in this area, when it's fully developed, around 40,000 people will be living here. 40,000 people will be working here, and the entire area is around 3.5 million square meters. So this is quite big, and it's going to be developed for the next 50 years. It's already, the first phase has started now, and the work is going to be continued for the next 50 years. So this is the area in the future. So just to give you some pictures as it is now, this is the area right now. The SEMANCO team actually visited this area a couple of, I think one half a year ago. And as you might see, there's nothing there yet. It's very, very flat, and there's not much going on. I took some snapshots of the environment right now. Not much going on, and it's an area with a lot of grass and industrial things. And also there's a very small harbor, so it's very, very quiet. Nothing is really going on right now. So just to introduce the concept of sustainability when we work with it in Denmark and internationally, it's not just energy, it's not just transport. These are actually the things which are being discussed in relation to North Harbour. It's going to be sustainable in many different ways. It's going to be a city very near to the water. It's going to be a city for everyone. So this is where it becomes social sustainable. It's going to be sustainable from a mobility point of view. So a lot of thinking into the transport systems are being discussed. It's going to be a dynamic city, a vibrant city, and an eco-friendly city. So these are sort of the things we are discussing, and that's why I started by saying that this is a multidisciplinary task. It requires a lot of different competencies to develop an area as a sustainable area in the future. So, as mentioned, these are some of the drawings from the architects. They tried to imagine how life will be in North Harbour. So they made these drawings. I'll just go through them very quickly. It's going to be a diverse city, as I mentioned. It's going to be compact and green. And it will have different sequences of green and blue. So they are trying to make use of the natural environment around North Harbour. And the different areas of North Harbour will have their own individual identities. This is also a different kind of sustainability. And from a transport point of view, it's going to be a 5-minute city, we call it. The metro line, which is elevated. And this is what we call a super bicycle lane. So the idea is, well, you could actually cycle from home to your workplace without getting wet. So maybe this is something which could work for Newcastle as well. But this is the idea, try to make us comfortable for bicyclists to get to work. So this is being created. And you might know that I think Copenhagen is number 2 just after Amsterdam in the field of bicyclism. So they're trying to promote that. So this was just a bit about the area. Now getting to the energy part, which is my expertise. The vision from the beginning from North Harbour was, well, it should be a CO2 friendly city near to train stations, instead of us getting into cars every morning and driving for an hour to get to work. And this has actually been the reason why the Rumble head office has been built where it is today. So you need to think about that before building the office. Another special feature about the city of Copenhagen is that, 98% of the heat supply is being provided by district heating. And the district heating tradition in Denmark has been developing for the last 30-40 years. So most of Copenhagen, which is more than 1 million inhabitants, is being provided by district heating, which is very environmental friendly. The regional finger plan for the area also supports high rate of public transport. As I mentioned, there has been years of tradition of bicyclism. So that's how it is today. If you are looking towards the future, we made some access to data.
What comes out the other end?
Because in some ways, yeah, it's fine. But actually, I don't you know, it's like we almost don't need to do it. It's only a compelling way that you can put the data.
So do I look at David?
Yeah. So that's it. So thanks. I've got Ruth Bush here from the University of Leeds. Ruth, you've obviously seen the tool this morning be presented, given the UK perspective and the Copenhagen perspective. I just wanted to really get your thoughts on what you thought.
Well, the tool is really great in the level of detail that it can get, and that's a really exciting thing, to bring together so many sets of data in what can be such a time-consuming process that really only academics who ever get to spend the time doing. And I think what's exciting is that now to go on and see how people can use that in practically within the decision-making process and kind of really get to the bottom of what they want to achieve, what objectives they have to, and pull the tool in to help them achieve those objectives.
Excellent. And do you think it can save people money and time, or is that really the value you see in the tool, or is there other aspects as well?
I think it definitely can save people huge amounts of time. I think it can really help refine your strategies. So if you're thinking strategically about a city where you might want to focus your energies to get the best outcome with your limited resources, then this tool is going to be really exciting for you to be able to refine those planning processes.
Ruth, thank you very much. That's been really helpful. Thank you. Perfect. So thanks for coming today, Tim. Obviously you've seen the presentation of the SEMANCO tool given the UK perspective and the Copenhagen. I just wanted to get your general thoughts on what you thought of it.
I think the tool looks like it's got a lot of potential to be able to inform decisions in the built environment for planners and for elected members, and for anybody who's got an interest in how the place works in terms of the energy consumption patterns and the impact that could have on people's lives. So I think there's a lot to be happy about when you see it. I think it's got, you know, I mean, the key thing that I would reflect is that I think there's one or two other key layers that could be worked in quite easily, one of them being transport and access to transport, and actually in new developments, making sure that new developments actually have transport actually hardwired in, because any number of people will try and develop things and then go, oh, we forgot about the bus. Well, actually, you didn't forget about the bus. Everybody knows where the buses should be. It's just that if they don't put them in, you know, we're never going to get them. You know, and if you've designed your streets in such a way that you end up with two cul-de-sacs that never meet, you're never going to get bus penetration, for example. So, you know, there's all that to think about, and I think that's something that could be actually put into the model to an extent. So I think it's just there's a movement layer that actually just looks at key connections, and I think that would start to inform master planning of a new area, but also would mean that you'd be able to look at targeted interventions to actually do simple things like maybe you want to make an intervention in an area where you have more services that are based on a transport node, and how do you do some small retrofitting in terms of the community's supplier, meet its own needs without us then getting 20 years time where people are no longer putting petrol in the car because it's too expensive and they can't get anything because they can't drive there, you know? Just a simple thing.
Thank you very much. And do you think there's there would be a commercial demand for this sort of service? Do you think that does exist? Or?
I think there is, but I think with any commercial product, it does come down to a cost-benefit analysis, and you do have to work out whether it's going to be value for money at the end of the day. I think most people accept that data costs, and I think also you haven't got to underestimate the amount of effort you have to go to yourself to actually get the data to go into the actual model itself. So there's two sides to that. There's probably a license fee, and then there's probably actually your own commitment to actually feed it with the right information. So it's a bit like having a pet, you have to look after it, So,
And the tool itself, how it looked, did you think it was quite user-friendly?
I think on the face of it, I think the tool looks like it's very, very simple to use, and I think that's got some advantages, because actually what you'd like to be able to do is disseminate this to a whole load of people who basically probably aren't technical specialists, so they would then find this a user-friendly way of understanding things that engineers talk about, when most people just start to glaze over, don't they? At the point it becomes engineering, whereas it becomes a map that's got different colours on it, everybody goes, oh, look at that, and you can start to understand the context very well. We all like simple information delivered in a clear way,
Thank you very much, Tim. That's really helpful.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Cheers.
Right.
So, Mark, thank you very much for coming today. I just wanted to ask you about your perception. You've obviously seen the presentations about the SEMANCO tool, given the UK and Copenhagen perspective.
Yeah.
Just ask you some general feedback as to what you thought.
Well, obviously I'm an architect, so I don't get involved in the data at the front end, but I could see it being a great tool in the future if you can solve this issue with trying to collect the data. Maybe if there's a national database or something everybody could feed into, that might be quite a good opportunity for you.
Okay, excellent. And what did you think of the visualization, how it looked and the function?
Yeah, it looked pretty easy to use actually. Yeah, all the drop-down menus and stuff seemed quite intuitive. So yeah, I think you're onto something there.
Okay. Do you think it's something that local authorities would pay for, or who do you think it's best pitched to?
I think that's a tricky one, isn't it? Because are they going to pay for the system that they use now? If it's the same as the cost they use now, then I think you might be onto something, but to have an additional cost, I think you'll be struggling.
And do you think it could make them savings by using the tool?
Absolutely, yeah, I think long term. Once you've got the data, then you can use it. So if you can look at a way to harness data nationally and then share the data, presumably that would make your calculations more accurate as well.
Thank you very much for coming.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.